Hello, welcome TAs for the Center for Language Studies. My name is Dave Nielsen. I'm the instructional coordinator here at BYU for the Center for Language Studies. And we oversee about 50 different languages in our area, all the way from Afrikaans to Welsh. And this training that you'll be taking part in today is to give you a few things. Number one is to give you an overview of the proficiency language levels of the students that you'll be working with, all the way from novice or maybe intermediate or even advanced, possibly superior. And then two, we'd like to give you some training about what a typical TA would do versus an instructor. The duties and responsibilities of a TA are covered in this training, as well as we like to be able to help out with Learning Suite, and so go over some basic things that a TA would help with the class, the students, sending out emails, posting announcements, inputting grades, updating the schedule, and even a simple thing like adding you as a user or publishing the Learning Suite itself so that students are able to access that. So to start off with, what we're going to do is going to introduce you to a self-assessment, a language self-assessment that we call the LPDA, or the Language Diagnostic Assessment. And what that is when return missionaries come home, sometimes they wonder which class they should enroll in, what language class. And so if you notice, it says in each row, mark the box that best describes your unrehearsed speaking ability in the language you have learned or are learning, and note where the checks cluster. So when a new return missionary comes home, this is one of those diagnostic tests to help them determine which class they should enroll in. And if you look at the 100 level, it says I can say words and phrases. On the 200 level, I can create new sentences to meet my needs within familiar settings. So the difference between these would be the 100 level would be memorize words and not to be able to create with the language, whereas the 200 level is more sentences and phrases. And the 100 level, we call that the parrot, and the 200 level, we call that the survivor, because they can survive in many common experiences they have and situations that they would encounter in the target language. The 300 level, though, is somebody who can create in past, present, and future timeframes in paragraphs and use transitions, and we call that person the communicator. And that would just be the first row of this grid that you would check, and then you would go through the other ones and see which ones would end up with having the most marks in which column. Then you would look up the language difficulty number of the language you have learned, or you did learn on your mission. And if you notice, the language difficulty for an English speaker goes all the way from 1 to 5, 5 being languages such as Chinese and Korean and Japanese, and 1 being many of the Romance languages that are based off of Latin, like French and Spanish and Portuguese and Italian. And then the number of months that a missionary has spent in the field would determine how advanced they would be or proficient they would be. And so if you notice that it could go all the way from 3 to 24 months, and depending upon the language difficulty, they could qualify to be a 300 level along here if it's a level 1 difficulty, or for the same number of months, 15 months, on a level 5, 202 is the recommended level. Now, that's not always exactly the case, because if you notice the asterisk down below, it says this chart indicates the number of months that the average missionary needs to be ready for a given class level. About 15% of the missionaries will be ready sooner than the recommendation, and about 15% will even take longer. So then you If the two steps 1 and 2 match, then you enroll in that course, and if no, then you enroll in the lower course. And if you still have questions, then you look at the appendix, because the appendix will give you the difficulty level. And if yours is, as an example, in a level 1, such as Dutch, then you could probably qualify for a harder, more difficult number level of class, all the way up to a 300 level. But if it's a level 5, if you look down here on the appendix and it's like Chinese, then you would probably be limited to start, in most cases, with a 202 as the first course back from being on a mission. And then we also have the other languages that return missionaries are called to, all the way from Estonian. And if we continue on down to the bottom with Tagalog. Now, there are some languages that are not on this chart, such as Hawaiian and Navajo and Welsh, because missionaries are not called to those missions, but we still teach those classes here on campus, and we can give help on those as well. So that is our first part, is helping you, the instructor especially, determine proficiency levels, and you will be able to help in your TA work to help students to get to this level, the 300 level, if they're a return missionary, by looking over the tasks that are required for a 300 level. The second part of the training is on instructor versus TA training. What that means is some of the duties will be only an instructor will do, and some will be shared, and then some mainly a TA would be doing. So we'll go over the instructor responsibilities first. So in class, an instructor, they determine the course curriculum. They inform students of the procedures for completing and submitting class work and tests and challenge exam. They teach the class, and they lead small group discussions. Now, whenever there's a little star and asterisk, that means that both instructor and the TA could take part and participate in those activities. Before and after class, they develop instruction materials such as the syllabus, visual aids, answer keys, teaching activities. They order and obtain teaching materials, equipment, and textbooks. They create and prepare tests, and they evaluate and grade tests. And then they would meet with students to help with assignments, but again, a TA could do that as well. The TA, though, for in-class versus before and after class responsibilities is, number 1, to be reliable and follow through. If you can't make it that day to class, to make sure that you let the instructor know. To know the course material, to be able to answer the questions, and in most cases, the TA will have already taken this class that you are TAing for. Copy and distribute classroom materials, and you can do that either with a print card that you get from the instructor, or to be able to make copies in the Center for Language Studies copy room. To take attendance and return assignments to students, that's a very common task. To evaluate student work with a rubric, in other words, simple assignments and even quizzes can be graded by TAs. Provide instructors and students with technology assistance, especially during class, or Learning Suite, that's a common activity. Partner with individual students with odd numbers. So if there are 7 that come to the class that day and the instructor is pairing up with an activity, then you could pair up with the odd person out. To guide small group discussions. So if you have a class of 8 or 7 and you split it into 2 groups, then you could take one of the groups and the instructor take the other group and lead a small group discussion. To post announcements on Learning Suite is a common duty or responsibility, and to update grades on Learning Suite can even be done as an example to taking attendance and updating the attendance or participation grade on Learning Suite during class is very common. Before and after class is discussed student problems or issues with the supervisors, with their instructor first, and then we would be involved. notify instructors of errors or problems with assignments. If a student brings an assignment to you and brings something up that says that is an error in the assignment, then you would let the instructor know about that. And then sometimes TAs will even have office hours to help with assignments that you'd be able to meet and help them with questions they have. If you have any questions, you can always email me at davenielsen@byu.edu, and we will get back to you and be able to answer those questions in most cases. As far as the next step of what to do, we like to do is to share the Learning Suite especially with the TA, and in most cases, the TA will be able to post announcements and especially email. Many of the TAs will email students about different things, such as a midterm that is coming up, or possibly an assignment to be reminded, or even creating a class schedule for class presentations that the students will individually participate in. So you will notice that this is a Learning Suite course for a Tongan class. And I'm going to go over on the left-hand side on the Home tab up here, things that you could do. So if the announcement is about, as an example, about a midterm that's coming up, you could click on announcement right there, and then you would click on new announcement. And once you click announcement, maybe you would say something like, midterm is coming up on October 14th. Please use the study guide and review that before class. And then once you click publish announcement, it will be saved on the home screen of the announcement so that students can be able to access that on their own. Another one that's really common is over here is on emailing. So if you wanted to email something out to everybody, you can select all there, or you can select individually. If somebody has a class presentation coming up on Thursday and that you needed to just remind them of that, you could just click on one person themselves, and that way have that accessible. Then you just type it right here with a subject, and then down on the very bottom is where you just send the email. If you ever wanted to know what the course outcomes are, what the learning objectives are and the learning outcomes for that class, they are right here: communication, comprehension, and cultural. And in order to actually set up the course, if you haven't already done that, you'll have to set this up with your instructor and make sure that you know if you're going to be choosing weighted categories for your grades or whether you're going to choose total points, because that has to be done right at the beginning when you set it up. Another important thing is on user, you're going to want to add yourself to as the TA. And so I can either do that or your instructor can add you as a TA. All we need to do is click on new TA and put in your BYU Net ID and then save it, and you'll be updated there to do that. Now there are a couple other important things. If you notice here on the tab called content, some instructors decide to put a lot of pages to download, readings, videos, different things. They put it all under right here. This one happens to be called culture. Lots of different readings to read about. If your instructor doesn't decide to do it that way, they would put it probably under the schedule. And a schedule normally has two columns. One column that would be for what is going to be done in class, and one that's going to be done before class, so mainly for homework. These would be either readings that you need to read before class, or readings during, or a video to watch before class, or an activity to do. And so if you separate this out, then the student needs to know what they're going to do during class, and then also what they need to do for homework before that class That makes a simple way to set up the course. A couple other things that are important are grades. So you will help with putting in grades. And that one should have the names of the students already there. And it could have, depending upon the instructor, the categories of them broken down like into quizzes or tests or assignments or class presentations, or it could even be something like a journal or a native speaking interview, those kind of things. So, and if you are responsible to put in participation and attendance points, that you could actually put that in the class period that you are overseeing. As far as the next thing to do is to make sure that when you get it all set up and it's ready to go, then you go to that course. I'm going to go down to Tongan right here and 3:30, and then we would click publish if it's ready for the students to be able to view. And once that is published, then that's accessible by the students. And if you don't want them to see, you would unpublish it, make some changes, and then publish it again. And then that way it would be accessible for them to see. As far as a TA, probably the most important thing is just to follow through and be responsible, to do what you say you will do, and to communicate, set some goals with the instructor so that you can be working together. And if you have any questions past the instructor that they can't answer, then just please email me again at davenielsen@byu.edu. And if you have anything that a suggestion for a TA, we're always welcome to give us some suggestions for that. But welcome aboard. We're glad and happy that you are here. And we look forward to a great semester with the fall coming up here. And thank you for accepting this assignment.